Hello and welcome to Autofocus. Today we are here in Jaipur to ride one of the most exciting new bikes for this year. This is a brand new motorcycle that has been built by the Hero Harley-Davidson collaboration. This is a bike that's been awaited. It's a bike that is likely to attempt shaking up a segment that is fast emerging as one of the fastest selling segments of motorcycles in India. This is the HD X440, short for the Harley-Davidson X440. A significant, groundbreaking from one perspective, unique because Harley-Davidson is not known for single cylinders and it has a long history of single cylinders dating back to nearly 70 years, but then it has not had any single cylinder in the recent past, and this is a huge change in perception for Harley-Davidson. It's a collaboration that was signed just 3 years ago, and this motorcycle has been built ground up to then cater to this emerging class of buyer in India that is looking for a premium performance bike with great brand recall. And a Harley-Davidson, I don't think it's an iconic brand. I don't think there is a brand that has better recall than that. And this is now going to attempt to break into this segment in India. This is a Harley-Davidson in terms of its design, not just on the skin, but it's under the skin. It's been worked on, both Hero engineers and Harley-Davidson engineers having worked together to bring this bike into fruition. Motorcycle that's been built on a tubular trellis frame, and that is allowed them to package the engine very neatly into the bay. It is also a chassis that is potentially capable of delivering a lot of stability and rigidity into this fundamental platform. It is also a platform that's likely to be used by Hero for a motorcycle of their own in the future. That is where this is coming from, this partnership. And this is a trellis frame that then captures the essence of a Harley-Davidson without it taking too much away from the overall quality of the bike. The fuel tank, as you can see, is a squared off, nice wide fuel tank. It's got LED headlamps with an ambient light sensor, which then detects if there's the amount of light available for the rider is low and switches on the headlamp automatically. The headlamp is a classic round Harley headlamp with that center horizontal bar bearing the brand Harley-Davidson on it. Tail lamp again is LED. The design is very forward looking in terms of its overall weight distribution, and as you can see, that entire center portion very neatly packaged without any yawning gaps. There have been issues with the engineering where they've had to work on the classic Harley-Davidson thumb. That's something which is very intrinsic, very key to deliver the message of the Harley as being what it should be for the average rider, even in this segment. So from that perspective, even though the exhaust looks a little simple, the silencer looks a little simple and uncluttered, it is also something that they've had to work on to package the catalytic converter, and of course to also try and loop the pipe around to make sure that the Harley-Davidson thump is delivered without it exceeding noise norms, emission norms and all of that, which is pretty stringent in the Indian context. So then let's look at the ergonomics and the positioning for the rider with the X440, and what you get here is 170 mm clearance. The seat height is about 805 mm. That gives very upright, simple, straightforward seating position. It's also got a wide handlebar, so in terms of that whole Harley feel, it does come through when you sit at the saddle. Overall stance is an upright, easy riding, everyday riding Harley. That's been the intention with the design and with the whole ergonomics that's been given for the X440, and that is something that is going to be appreciated by a lot of riders, because this is a bike that people will want to take out every single day, and it does not feel heavy. It's a fairly heavy bike. It's still at 191 kgs or so curb weight with about 80-90% of fuel in the tank. And that then is a relatively heavy bike, but it does not feel heavy when you're riding it. It's quite nimble. We will get to more about how it feels on the track here at Hero MotoCorp's CIT, Center for Innovation and Technology. That's where we've been riding it, both on the long oval and on the handling track with very, very tight turns. And we will get to all of that in a bit. So let's talk about the engine a bit. That's a single cylinder, so it's a fairly large cylinder that we're talking about. Long stroke, 440cc air and oil cooled engine. Harley-Davidson engineers and of course Hero, in collaboration with them, have worked on giving this a lot of details, which then makes it look special. So the fins have been carefully machined, very, very clean, very nice finish to it. The trellis frame itself also gets, with some versions, matte chrome or black chrome finish. You do get a lot of paint color combinations, options, and of course it is going to be offered in 3 trim variants, all of them sporting the same 440cc engine. This long stroke engine delivers about 27 horsepower at about 6,000 RPM and about 38 Newton meters of torque at about 4,000 RPM. So the power is sufficient. The torque is also very good when you're riding it, because it is almost 90% of that torque is available even before 4,000 RPM. But it's not very hard revving engine, I would say. It still is meant to offer you that sort of laid back riding quality that is a very Harley-Davidson trademark. And at the same time, you can be on full throttle and blitzing through the rural landscape, if you may please, or on the highway. I did touch top speeds on this oval track in Hero's CIT of about 139, 140 kilometers with a bit of wind assistance, but I would say it is still a bike that is meant to be ridden in a relaxed fashion. It does deliver a lot of that power and torque early. There's enough to work with right through the gears. It's a 6-speed gearbox that's been mated to this engine. Overall, what you get here is a bike that's capable of being ridden hard. Surprisingly, one of the things that I experienced at the track here, of course, at the handling track, is that this is great while leaning into corners, delivering even more than the rated lean of 36 degrees. I was scraping the foot pegs all along during this handling track ride, and what it does deliver and come across as being is a bike that is still light, nimble and flexible. On the straights, of course, this is super rock steady. Doesn't feel like a bike that is in this class. There is a mild vibrations that set in at the foot peg past the 118, 120 kilometers per hour speeds, but it's not intrusive and it still feels pretty sorted overall in terms of the package that it delivers. Aside of the geometry itself on the track, this suspension feels good to ride on. It provides a good balance between the kind of rigidity that's needed for great straight line stability and for corner carving, and it also does feel like a suspension that would take on the rough and tumble of Indian roads. But of course, that's something that we cannot tell you with certainty as of today. We would have to take this out on the road. We are not being given an opportunity to take it out on regular roads today, but we will in the future and give you a more detailed review about the ride and handling. Fuel efficiency numbers aren't out yet, but yes, it is not essentially going to be a very fuel efficient bike. It's also a 2-valve engine, so from that perspective, the efficiency wouldn't be the same as it would be if it was a 4-valve engine. That said, this is not in a segment that is going to be addressing buyers that are very sensitive towards fuel efficiency. One of the features I liked about the new Harley-Davidson X440, of course, is this connected instrument gauge pod. It's a single pod that delivers a very, very crisp, clear LCD display with a lot of information that's been built in. You can scroll through and get a lot of information, including distance to empty, average fuel efficiency, distance traveled, trip meters, of course, all there. But more importantly, it gets connected features, and Hero and Harley have also tied up with Map My India for navigation, turn-by-turn navigation that is then displayed on this connected pod. It also does offer you connected bike features, stuff like your ability to take a call play music. There is an embedded SIM that then allows you to track the bike, remotely deactivate the bike in case of a potential situation where the bike could be hijacked. All of that possible combinations being offered with the connected services. Of course, this is dependent on the variant. I think it is the top variant that does get some of these features. You will have to check with the dealership or download a brochure to find out which of these variants offers you the connected features through an embedded SIM. You will need to subscribe to this SIM services via a service provider at a later date, but at the time of sale, Harley is saying that they will be offering these services for free. Now, this is also a bike that is said to need a service interval of about 10,000 kilometers, which is a pretty decent, I would say, decent interval within which you need to take it back for servicing. Overall, that's what you will get for the kind of three variants that you pick on. Lots of minor details that look nice. Of course, I did also like the spoked version, which is, I think, the base variant, and the top variant is what this one is, with its special diamond cut alloys and all of these features loaded. So just a few years ago, I remember there was this whole debate about Harley-Davidsons and Indian mangoes. Might seem a little confusing, but essentially the Indian government said if you were to allow Indian mangoes to be imported into the US, we would allow Harley-Davidsons to be imported into India. And today here we are riding a made for India Harley-Davidson, and it's been put together entirely here for an Indian audience. It's not something that you can buy anywhere else in the world today, and this is a Harley-Davidson. I mean, it's an iconic brand. So now that's what you're getting with this. There are still minor niggles. I would say I would have expected some of the detailing to be a little better. Some of the finish quality is good. Switchgear is great. Overall, it does feel like a premium Indian bike, but it somewhere doesn't quite feel almost entirely like a Harley-Davidson. And that's something that is going to be likely an issue that this is going to face. And at the same time, it's got great brand value. It rides clean, has all the things that a premium bike buyer will look for. And most importantly, it's been priced spectacularly competitively at about 2.3 lakhs as its starting price ex-showroom. Now we're talking about a bike that goes all the way only up to about 2.7 lakhs ex-showroom. It's looking at competitors like the Royal Enfield Classic and the Royal Enfield Himalayan. It is certainly not an adventure bike for sure in terms of its positioning, but at the same time, that's the kind of price target that it has. And from that perspective, it's got fantastic brand value, even though it might have those minor niggles. I would have liked to have seen a 4-valve engine, for example. I would have liked to have seen a few more details that then make it feel special. But overall, great value at the price that it's being positioned at. And it rides clean, both in the straights and into corners. And that's finally what's going to matter for the buyer in this segment. And this is certainly an everyday Harley-Davidson. It doesn't necessarily have to be taken out only on the weekend. If you are in the market for a bike in this segment and you've been waiting for this Harley to come, I would strongly urge you to go and try it out, ride it, get to understand how it feels and whether it fits your profile and whether it truly feels like a Harley-Davidson for you.